A woman is kneeling beside a dead mammoth. Not hunting it. It is already dead. Frozen solid, half buried in snow, somewhere on the open plains of Ukraine, 20,000 years ago. She is not here for the meat. She is here because the temperature outside has dropped low enough to kill her children. In a matter of hours, and the only shelter for miles is the body cavity of this enormous, dead animal. So she does the only thing left to do. She starts pulling out what remains inside it. And she builds a home inside the corpse of a creature 10 times her size. I need you to sit with that for a second. Because right now, today, if your heating broke for one single night, most of us would consider that a crisis. We would call someone, complain online, maybe go stay somewhere else for the night. She did not have that option. There was no somewhere else. And what she did next, what an entire species did, winter after winter, for tens of thousands of years, is so much stranger and darker than anything you learned in school. Some of it will make you genuinely uncomfortable. Some of it will make you ask what you would actually do if the temperature outside was the only thing standing between you and your family staying alive. Let's find out what they actually did. Here is the first uncomfortable truth. The human body was never built for this. Every one of our closest relatives, every ape we evolved alongside, still lives somewhere warm today. No fur thick enough to matter. No layer of fat like a seal or a walrus. Nothing biological standing between us and a temperature that can stop a heart in under an hour. When humans pushed north, into landscapes that turned brutally cold. For half the year, their bodies did not adapt fast enough. So they had to cheat. The first solution was simple, almost embarrassingly so. They took the skin off of other animals and put it on themselves. Researchers studying ancient sites in Europe found something that is hard to fully process. Humans had been wrapping themselves in animal hide for cold protection for nearly 300,000 years. Not 300 years. 300,000. For most of that time, it was not clothing. The way you think of clothing. No stitching. No shape. Just skin, draped and tied around the body, the same hide doubling as a blanket at night, as a sling to carry an infant, as padding for hands cutting stone. It worked. Barely, and for tens of thousands of years, barely was enough. Then the world got colder than barely could handle. Around 30,000 years ago, something the size of a toothpick quietly rewired human survival. A needle. Carved out of bone or ivory, with a hole so small it had to be drilled with a sliver of flint. One historian called it the single most important invention in the history of our species. Here is why that is not an exaggeration. A draped hide can keep you alive. It cannot seal at the wrist. It cannot block wind at the neck. Cold finds every gap. The needle ended that. For the first time, humans could sew fitted clothing. For facing in, against the skin, for warmth. A second layer facing out, to block the wind. Sleeves shaped to the arm. A hood sealed tight around the face. This is not speculation about ancient comfort. It is the exact design Arctic peoples still wear today. Double layered. Fur in, fur out. A hood built directly into the coat. The same blueprint. Carried forward from an ice age that ended over 10,000 years ago. And some researchers believe this single tool may have given modern humans an advantage that an entire other species of human, the Neanderthals, simply did not have. A piece of bone, smaller than your finger, it may have helped decide which kind of human walked out of that ice age alive. Clothing alone was not enough. A human body, even well wrapped, still needed somewhere the wind could not reach it at all. And in the open grasslands of ancient Ukraine, where there were almost no trees, and almost no stone, ancient humans looked at the only large material the landscape actually offered them: the remains of mammoths. At a site called Mesherik, archaeologists found something that still unsettles people today. Circular homes, built almost entirely out of mammoth bone. Skulls stacked into walls. Long leg bones driven vertically into the frozen ground, like the frame of a house. Tusks curved overhead to form a roof. One single structure contained roughly 150 bones from these enormous animals. Some of these dwellings stretched 10 meters across, large enough for an entire family to survive the worst months of the year inside. Likely covered with hide for insulation. A fire pit burning at the center. Researchers have now found these bone structures at dozens of sites across Ukraine and Russia, some occupied on and off across more than 400 years. Think about what that actually required: a landscape with nothing to build with. And humans responded by turning the skeletons of the largest animals on the continent into walls. When the world offered them nothing, they built shelter out of giants. Now here is the part most people do not want to hear. Because survival on this level did not stay clean. Archaeologists studying sites across Ice Age Europe have found something that takes a moment to absorb. Human bones. With cut marks. With breaks consistent with extracting marrow. With the same butchery patterns used on deer and horses. Found in the very same layers of earth. At a cave in England, researchers found skulls carefully shaped into something resembling cups. This was not random violence. It was deliberate. Careful. Repeated. Some researchers believe this happened during the hardest stretches of winter, when stored food ran out. And the only resource left was each other. Other researchers argue it was something else entirely. A funeral practice. A way of honoring the dead. By keeping them inside the bodies of the living, rather than abandoning them to the frozen ground. The truth is, both explanations have evidence behind them. And maybe that is the most unsettling part. We do not get to know, with certainty, whether this was desperation. Or whether it was love. Twisted into a shape we no longer recognize. What we do know is this: winter's cold enough to kill an entire family overnight. Do not just test your body. They test what you are willing to do. When every gentler option has already failed. And somewhere, in the deepest cold, some of our ancestors found out exactly where that line was for them. But if there is one factor researchers keep coming back to, more than clothing, more than shelter, more than fire, it is this: none of it worked alone. A single person, no matter how clever, no matter how well dressed, did not survive an Ice Age winter by themselves. Hunting required groups. Building a home out of mammoth bone required groups. Keeping a fire burning through 18 hours of darkness required someone awake while others slept. The tribe was not a comfort. In winter, the tribe was the entire survival mechanism. A person alone in that cold had a clock running against them that nothing could stop. A person inside a group had a chance. That is the part of this story that has nothing to do with bone houses or needles or anything you can hold in your hand. It survived because people refused to let each other die alone in the cold. That is the actual invention. Everything else was just the tools they used to do it. Somewhere in Ukraine, beneath the soil, those bone houses are still there. Built by people who looked at an impossible winter and a landscape that offered them nothing, and decided to survive it anyway, together. If this made you think differently about what it actually took to get you here, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep finding out exactly what the people before us were capable of, you know where to find us.